Hi, yes, this is Andy Lanning, and you're listening to the Superior Comic Show.
Hello, this is Ron Marz. You are listening to the Superior Comic Show.
Hello, and welcome to the Superior Comic Show. On today's issue, we're going to be talking about DC's top team, the Justice League. We're going to be discussing key issues, there's lineups, and the on-screen adaptions. But speaking of key issues and stories, on with me today I have the writing duo of the latest story, Endless Winter, which will be available by the time this reaches your ears. Andy Lanning and Ron Marz, welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
But also, listen, this event has been advertised like to the max all over comic book Twitter. So, as much as you can, I know everything needs to be kept, disclosed. But what should we expect from Endless Winter?
Well, I think the thing that we have to say right up front is that in the interest of truth in advertising, it's not actually endless. It's 9 issues. So hopefully no one gets annoyed that that it actually has an end. But this is the winter Justice League crossover running through the entire month of December for DC, and Andy and I co-wrote it. And it's the spine of the story is the Justice League taking on what appears to them to be a new villain called the Frost King, but as the story unfolds, we learn that it's actually an old villain it was originally on the scene in the 10th century. So the story takes place in 2 different time streams. It takes place in the 10th century and in the present day, and in both cases, a seemingly endless winter blankets the world.
So, will people reading recognize this enemy when his identity is revealed?
I don't know if he'll recognize him because we made him up. He's brand new.
Yeah, he's brand new. Sorry,
he's brand new, except he's been here since 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, I guess you're there.
Yeah, he's brand new to the readership, but old in the terms of the continuity. So. We've got a sort of framing device in the story where we tell the tale of his origin in the 10th century, where he runs up against that era's group of heroes who assemble to tackle him, and we've called that group the Justice League Viking, rather imaginatively, which gave us a chance to play with characters who were extant in that time zone, and it was like we've got Hippolyta, Black Adam, a Swamp Thing avatar, and Viking Prince in that framing story that is in every issue has a sequence that's told in the past.
So it's one of these rare things now for modern times. It's we're going to have a comic with the first appearance of someone.
Yes, to be fair, yes. It's always good to to add toys to the toy chest, as it were, and create a villain whole cloth with this, which was good fun and testament to Alex Carr in the DC editorial, gave us the opportunity to do that, to really run with it.
And with Vikings as well, you mentioned there, Andy, you being an Englishman and me being an Irishman, we grew up a lot of our history classes would have been on Vikings because of their history with our countries. So I'm sure you had a lot of fun with that.
True, actually, I'm from a town called Ramsgate on the coast, and we got a Viking longboat as a little tourist attraction nearby. So, where I believe they came and raped and pillaged my ancestors back in the day. But what was really cool about it though is it's like Vikings are sort of very flavour du jour, because of the Viking series and things like that. So getting to play with that stuff was really, really cool. And I think from Ron will let Ron chime in, because Viking Prince is one of the older DC characters that's been around, and one of Ron's favourites.
Once we sort of got to the point where we figured out that we had two different aspects of the story to tell, and wanted to do this past sequence, it felt like Viking Prince was the obvious one to bring in, because A, Vikings, and B, there were some interesting continuity bits about his what eventually happens to him and all that we could plug into. So I tend to be a big fan of a lot of the sort of off-kilter DC stuff that's not the superhero, the traditional superhero universe, Viking Prince and Jonah Hex and a lot of the Western characters. So the fact that we got a chance to bring Viking Prince into what is essentially a superhero story was just a bunch of fun.
Yeah. And as Andy mentioned as well, the timing is perfect. Vikings are all the rage now. You mentioned the Vikings TV show. You have that new Assassin's Creed Valhalla game is out now. It just seems like Vikings are in for 2020. It doesn't surprise me with the year that's in it. I don't know what's going to pop up next.
Yeah, I think stuff tends to be cyclical too. Vikings seem to be in the zeitgeist right now. Vampires have their run and then go a little bit dark, no pun intended. Zombies are still having their time in the sunshine right now. But I think stuff is cyclical, and I don't really know why that happens. It just seems to be that they make more of an appearance. And honestly, I don't think we even realized that there was a new Assassin's Creed game coming out when we started talking about Endless Winter that had a Viking aspect.
But that said, we're more than happy to ride the wave.
Listen, sails are sails at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So, honestly, these are probably going to be modest here, but I have to ask, in terms of the Justice League's past events and past key storylines, where would you put this? Is this going to be one of the best Justice League stories to date?
Oh, well, certainly not one of the best. Actually, the best, obviously. What are we going to say? Look, that's not for us to judge, certainly. The only thing that I can say is we had a bunch of fun doing it. And we've got an amazing array of artists that are aligned on all of these issues. That it's a total of 9 issues. So we've got more than 9 art teams. We've actually got an art team for each issue, plus Marco Santucci, who was doing all the flashback stuff. So there was a lot of juggling in terms of getting plot to all the different art teams and making sure that everybody was working, and the train was running on schedule so that everything could come out on time, which it will. Thankfully, it's everything is. First issue comes out today, but everything is done. Everything's at the printer. Now we just have to now we just sit back and wait for our comp boxes to roll in so that we actually can have the issues in hand. So it's a really difficult question to answer for us, because I think we're proud of what we did, and we're really happy with the way all of the art turned out. I mean, I'm forever the one saying your story is only as good as the artist you're working with on it, and we were blessed to be working with an entire array of terrific artists. So we're happy with the way it comes out, and we hope the audience likes it. That's about all we can say.
But yeah, and following up on what Ron's saying there is it's not for us to judge whether it's the great, one of the greatest JLA stories. That'll be the readers will ultimately decide that. But when you're writing something, the first person you write for is yourself. It's like, and Ron and I, when we were doing this, it's like we wanted to write a story that we would enjoy reading ourselves, and I think in that respect we've succeeded, because we had a great time writing it, and we're really pleased with how it all came out. And then the golden cherry on top of that is that the art and the colours and the lettering and all the other component parts have just been absolutely wonderful as well, which is a brilliant part of the process when that stuff starts to roll in. When first you get to see the breakdowns, then the pencils, the inks, then the colouring comes on top, and then finally the lettering. When each of those processes are squared away, it's like you're looking at it with new eyes each time, and it's great. So like I say, we're happy, we're pleased, and hopefully some of that will translate to the readership.
Yeah, and like you were saying there about the art as well, I was having a look at some of the cover art. I'm a very fickle person. If I see a cover that looks awesome, I'm buying this, and all 9 covers look amazing for this event. So it's a book by its cover thing, but while people are told not to judge a book by its cover, you can't help but notice some awesome comic covers.
There's a reason that's become a cliche, is because it's true. You do judge things by their cover. And again, we've got some fantastic covers there, and some really cool design work, even down to the the Endless Winter logo that they created for it all. I mean, DC, they put a good package together. You've got to give them their due there. Yeah,
and as well, I'm sure fans are going to be excited seeing you two together with your history of working on specific characters from the Justice League. So you have history there, and I'm sure you have the fan base there that have been waiting for you to get together and do a big storyline like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the reasons we got the gig in the first place was Alex was a fan of the Annihilation series that I'd worked on, which is a big crossover event, and when I asked Ron to join the band, the merry band, Ron brings with him as well a great history of having worked on big event books as well. It's something we not only individual titles, and I think between us we've probably written a variation of all of those characters' books in one way or the other, but sort of like handling an event that has to weave its way in and out of regular ongoing continuity, and be respectful to that and the characters in those titles, as well as handling all of the complexities of an overall narrative plus individual narratives. I guess it's something we've got a knack for. Hey, Ron.
Well, that was the job, right? Sometimes you have to, I think you sort of approach each gig with, okay, what are what's the target here? What are the parameters that we have to work in? When you're working in a shared universe and you're working particularly on a crossover where you have a bunch of different characters, and to a certain extent you're serving a bunch of different masters because you have different editors in the mix and you're trying to coordinate everything. You're aiming for a specific target, and that target is something that ultimately has to be agreed on by everybody in the mix. The creators, the editors, and I think we did that here. There was a lot of Zoom calls early on in this to really hone which characters were going to be involved, which villains were available to us. I think some people have the perception that, the creative team just come in and make up a bunch of stuff and editorial gives it a stamp of approval and ships it out the door. For something like this, there's a lot of coordination in terms of who's available, what character is where is the Fortress of Solitude right now, who's in Kondak with Black Adam, which villains can we insert into a scene? It's like it's one big toy box, and a lot of different people are playing with a lot of different toys at the same time. So you have to figure out what exactly your target is, and then once you agree upon that, everybody kind of moves forward together.
Yeah, it's actually very interesting. I know a lot of people have heard it and seen it on Twitter when it comes to events from all the big companies. I've seen questions asking, where was this character, where was this character? And you kind of answered it there of what actually happens when setting up a large-scale event. Is there any kind of, do you have to go through negotiating? Is there, if you pick characters to use and you really need them, will the current writer in their current run kind of make a path for them to enter the event, or is it just kind of you have to take what you get?
I think there's bits of both in that. You sort of come up with your wish list, and then you find out who's available, and the ones that aren't available, you have to slot somebody else in. And again, all props to editorial for coordinating all this, and particularly in this era in which editorial is not they're not all in the same building. Obviously, everybody's working from home.